Hi everyone, I'm Silent K, and welcome to the CineFile. It's your inside look at movies, the trivia and special moments that surround them, and more fun film facts than you even knew you needed. It's a lot, so grab the popcorn, which, ironically, I don't even like. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and make sure you ring that bell to get notified every time I post a new video. Today, we're dissecting the movie Shirley, so let's get to the randoms. For our first random piece of trivia, I can tell you that Shirley is a biopic about horror/thriller writer Shirley Jackson and the time she spent writing her most successful short story, The Lottery. She went on to write some other stuff that you'll probably recognize, but I gotta build some suspense here. The movie is actually based on a 2014 book called Shirley, a novel. That pesky word novel makes me think they're gonna paint the biography portions of this movie with a pretty wide brush. Another random piece of trivia for you, this film's director, Josephine Decker, won the Auteur Filmmaking Award at this year's Sundance Film Festival. This movie made a big splash at Sundance. Besides that award, Neon picked it up for distribution shortly after the festival, and there's already Oscar buzz for Elizabeth Moss, but more on her in a second. This is definitely random. The film was actually shot in Jefferson Heights, New York, which is only about 150 miles from Syracuse University, which is where the real Shirley Jackson went to college. I'm guessing they're making Jefferson Heights look like North Bennington, Vermont, because that's where Shirley actually lived in the 1940s. My last random fact for you, Martin Scorsese is an executive producer on this film. So some would call this pointless trivia because Scorsese has been EPing a lot of stuff lately, but I call those people nuts because anytime Martin Scorsese is involved, you should pay attention. A movie is nothing without its cast, so let's check out that roster. Gonna try this one in reverse order, build up to the lead actress. We'll start with Odessa Young. She's playing Rose.
I read your story.
What are you doing in here?
It made me feel thrillingly horrible.
Odessa is by no means a newbie, but is just starting to see her career surge a little bit. Her most noticeable flick is probably Assassination Nation from 2 years ago. You don't need to see it if you don't want to. Logan Lerman plays Fred. Now, Logan may be young, but he's been in the biz for a while now. We're talking Perks of Being a Wallflower, Fury, and the Amazon series Hunters. If you're sitting there going, I know him, I've got 2 words for you. Percy Jackson. Twice, actually. Also, I have to point this out, Logan definitely got his start because casting directors thought he looked like a young Mel Gibson. He played his son in The Patriot and then a toddler Mel in What Women Want. So apparently in Hollywood, it's not just who you know, but who you look like. Michael Stuhlbarg plays Stanley, aka Shirley Jackson's husband.
Trite and a bit trashy, but give it a go.
Michael's kind of a, oh, he's from kind of guy. You know what I mean. You see him in something and you know you've seen him before, but you're not quite sure where. And the beauty of Michael is all his performances are always stellar. Check out this list I've compiled since he had his recurring role on Boardwalk Empire back in 2013, which Martin Scorsese also executive produced. I'm just saying. You've got Steve Jobs, Trumbo, Arrival, Doctor Strange, Miss Sloane, Call Me By Your Name, The Post, and The Shape of Water. None of these were rinky-dink roles either, and I didn't even add in the TV series he did in that time frame like The Looming Tower and Fargo. Now we get to the star of the film. Elizabeth Moss is playing Shirley Jackson.
Do you know what it's like to have a secret?
What are you up to?
Now there's a whole generation of people that only know Elizabeth Moss from The Handmaid's Tale. And then there's a whole nother group of fans that know her from Mad Men. Crazy thing is, I always think of her as first daughter Zoe Bartlett from The West Wing. You remember her dating a black man was the reason that the president got shot at the end of season 1? Oh, spoiler alert. What, you haven't seen that yet? Moss has had dozens of critically acclaimed roles in what's coming together as a pretty awesome career. But there's 2 things I want to mention. One is some of her roles are not that good and it can be really jarring. For example, Get Him to the Greek. Do you even remember her in that movie? She plays Jonah Hill's wet blanket girlfriend, always getting on his case. You can't even be mad at her about her performance because it's such a throwaway role, totally like ruining the fun parts. They should have just given the part to Sarah Marshall. I am so proud of that deep cut. Number 2, what is it about Moss that's made her the handmaid of horror films lately? It's like a casting director decided bye-bye Peggy Olson, hello Death and Violence. She was in Jordan Peele's follow-up to Get Out, Us. Then she was in The Invisible Man earlier this year.
There you are.
And now she's playing a horror author in this movie. She's got the genre on lockdown. That's it for the roster, so take a deep breath and let's deep dive. I'm actually excited for this movie because I'm a big fan of biopics, even if they're only loosely based on reality. And since Shirley Jackson isn't really a household name, haunted or otherwise, I wanted to take a moment to give you the goods on her. As I said, her short story The Lottery is what put her on the map, and her writing it is what this film is about. But it's her 5th novel that really brought her into the limelight, and that's The Haunting of Hill House. Many consider this to be a perfect ghost story, and even Stephen King once called it one of the most important horror novels of the 20th century. If you're getting accolades from that guy, you know you're a winner. There have been 2 movies made from The Haunting of Hill House, both simply called The Haunting. One was in 1963 and the other in 1999. The first one became a horror cult classic, while the second one, starring Catherine Zeta-Jones and Liam Neeson, fell kind of flat. Man, I could hear the Netflix people screaming through the screen. Yes! In 2018, The Haunting of Hill House was made into a series, and yes, it was extremely well received. I think that's because the longer form version is exactly what the story needed. One more thing about Shirley, I think the Hollywood bigwigs missed a huge opportunity here to pay homage to Shirley Jackson, and all they would have had to do is hold the release of the movie 3 weeks to June 27th. Why June 27th? Because that's the day that the lottery actually takes place on in the book. How do I know this without reading the book? Because North Bennington, Vermont, where Shirley Jackson spent most of her adult life and later died, celebrates June 27th every year for this exact reason. Unfortunately, Jackson will never see this movie because she died too soon at the age of 48 after suffering from multiple health issues. She was overweight, a smoker, and on top of that, agoraphobic. Think Sigourney Weaver and Copycat. I just thought of it. If you really want to be creeped out by Harry Connick Jr., see that movie. So that's it for your CineFile on Shirley. You are now more movie-minded before going to see it. I'm Silent K saying be kind and rewind. That means you can watch this again.
What becomes of your dear heroine?
What happens to all lost girls? They go mad.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching me in the CineFile. I really appreciate it. While you're here, why don't you subscribe so you see the next one, ring that bell so you'll be notified, and sure, like the video. And don't be shy with the comments. First, there, I said it so you don't have to.